Minutes before I wrap this up. This is Jason Geiger. He's another one of my students. Him and Daniel are my high-ranking students now in the class. Jason's not wearing a gi because a few days ago his car got broken into in his driveway. Somebody threw a rock through the window, and fortunately there were some valuable things in there that didn't get stolen, but they stole his karate bag. So he lost his gi, his belt, sparring gear, all of that stuff. So he's in typical street clothes today, which is kind of nice because he is going to perform the role of a street thug attacking me as I make application from Pyan Dan Som. So anyway, let's get into this for a minute. The very beginning of this kata, we've got your outside block followed by a geidan and a chudan strike or block, or whatever you want to call it, rotating opposites. So you've got here followed by high-low, high-low. And then you go to this side, high-low, high-low, before you go to here, spear hand, reset, here. So we're going to get into these motions for a moment. I want to start with high-low here. You've got this motion. We see this in the Nahachi form. We do a wall form that came from the Nahachi tradition here in Cheonjikido. It looks very similar to Teki Shodan out of the Shotokan tradition, and it's very similar to the Chang Moo Kwan wall form Chulgi-il. Ours has this double action high-low in it, just like in Pyan Dan Som. And what I think you have being demonstrated here is two-way action. The human body can defend itself and resist one-way action, but two-way action confuses the mind, and the attacker cannot resist, or finds it very difficult to resist simultaneously two-way action. This is the yin-yang principle put into power. Yin and yang operating together. And this is what I see with this motion here. I want to give you an example of that. If he grabs me from the front, here, I've seen this technique here, where he tries to go from the outside, or he tries to rake it from the inside. Same action, and he's able to hold on. If I go this way, he'll let go if I'm stronger, but he's going to hold on tight now, and that's very difficult. Okay? We teach from this point, not striking down, but raking him toward the body, one motion, and what's he naturally going to do when he gets to this point? He's going to pull back, and as he pulls back, I'm going to explode into him. But I want to use a little yin-yang here. Instead of trying to go up, or down, or out, I want to use two-way action, just like the kata. So one's going to go up, one's going to go down, and he can't fight both of them here. Okay? So, again, from this lapel grab, I'm going to go two-way action, then I can explode on him, like so. Okay? We can see this from behind as well. And this is an application. Let go for just a second, Jason. If I go here, the kata continues to the opposite side in an outside block before it continues with the double way action again. If he grabs me from behind again, I can try to drop my ki and go down or go out with one motion or one action. He's going to hold on. But if I confuse him by going high and low, so I'm extending the ki on the left side upward, the ki on the right side downward, dropping my center, he's going to lose his balance, or I'm going to disrupt his balance, and I can move from there. So from this position, I'm going to take the balance, and I've got my hand free. I'm going to step over here, and then I've got him in what's called a Tenkai Kote Hinere wrist technique, and I've turned to the opposite side, just like in the kata, and then I can follow it around and effect a very painful joint lock from that position. This can happen one of two ways. I can go high-low and come under with this technique that you've just seen, or I can go the opposite side. Here, I can rotate him around here and effect another tuite technique. So that's just a demonstration of two-way action from a front grab and a rear grab. The same principle would happen with the knife. You know, two-way action is very effective when it comes to controlling a weapon. Okay? A weapon is simply something that someone can use to harm you in a way that increases their speed and their power. That's a weapon, okay? If he's got a knife, we have a technique in our 20 knife Ippon Kumite set. It uses two-way action. I'm using this double action here, which is kind of an application of this, to literally cause his grip to loosen and the knife will come out of his hand. You can use this with a gun as well. I would never try this on the street because if you mess up, you're dead. But with a knife, it's really quite easy using two-way action along, causing the wrist to bend and using a forward motion on this lung meridian. It'll cause the wrist to loosen, or the grip to loosen, and the knife will go flying. If he's threatening me with the knife in my face, I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble. Boom. There goes the knife. Okay? That's an application of two-way action, or the yin-yang principle, to disarm a knife. Same thing from a gun. If he has a gun, I can try this. I need to get out of the way of the trajectory, and I don't need to go very far, and I can do the two-way action. And the gun being heavier will go. I just don't want to try that. Something a little safer, however, if I can get just a little bit of clearance, I'm going to lift my hands. I don't want any trouble. A little bit of clearance. I'm going to grab his wrist and the barrel of the gun. Then I'm going to take my body, rotating from the center of my body, and I'm going to pull backwards with the left hand, taking my body with me, and I'm going to push the barrel forward. So I've got two-way action that quickly disarms the gun and puts it in my hands. So this would look like so here. And he wouldn't be able to fire the weapon. Same thing could happen if I use two-way action going up and down. And this is a little more like the kata. He's got the gun here. I clear it. I'm going up, and then I'm pulling down on the wrist and stepping back. And I've got two-way action, and I've quickly disarmed the gun. One more time fast. Here. Two-way action. He can't fight it. Same thing would work on our technique. Let's say he's got his finger in my face. And he's threatened me, and I know this is going to get ugly, and I want to use a little bit of preemptive technique to disarm it. If I come in, and I make my fulcrum right here behind his knuckle, I can do two-way action to drop him. So I'm pulling down at the wrist, and back with the finger toward the heart, here. I've got two-way action, just like the two-way action in Pyan Dan Som. So those are just a few applications from that movement. Again, I'm referring to my notes, so I don't think I'm smart enough to remember all this without writing it down. But some very good stuff here. One thing I also like about the high-low in this kata is I'm going to opposite quadrants of the body. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And anytime we attack, particularly when we consider the nervous system, the circulatory system, and the pressure point meridians, if we go to opposite sides of the body, the disruption of ki will cause a reaction that meets in the middle. And it's more effective. And it's more dangerous. So these techniques are showing attacks on opposite quadrants of the body. You've got his upper left in conjunction with his lower right, his upper right in conjunction with his lower left. And that's something that we really ought to keep in mind. For instance, if he grabs me, I can take his balance to the lower quadrant. That sets up the upper quadrant where I can step through and disarm him. And there's a whole lot of different techniques. If he were to grab me, I could counter here to this quadrant, and I could come up here underneath the arm, or I could go through to that opposite quadrant by going through him with my ki this way. And so you see a little bit of the principle of attacking opposite quadrants simultaneously. Very, very good application of this technique. Very good Bunkai. It's teaching us a lot. These katas teach us a lot about body mechanics and about complex techniques if we're willing to dig through them to find it. Okay, looking at Pyan Dan Som, I want to get into this movement that comes after the two-way action. So you've got the two-way action on both sides, and then it goes here into an augmented outside block followed by a pressing block spear hand, just like in Kibon O. You're resetting into an augmented right outside block followed by a rotating outside block, and it culminates with a punch. So I want to look at this motion here. Let's do it from the side. This block followed by the spear hand and the reset. I think there's some interesting application that can be made from this series of movements. I want to start with, I believe these are movements 8, 9, and 10 out of Pyan Dan Som. I want to start with, he's going to grab an opposite grab. What I'm going to do is reverse the grab by simply coming here. Now I'm the one that's grabbed, and I'm going to rotate him this way, stepping forward, breaking his arm behind the elbow or disrupting his balance. And then his natural reaction is going to be to resist this. So I'm going to take the balance step behind and do what's called a Shiho-nagi technique. That's out of Aikido. So what you see is this motion followed by this turning motion here. So he goes to grab, I rotate it, I step in, break the arm, break the balance. He's going to resist that by pushing down. I just take him with me, and I'm going to turn, and I'm going to screw into the ground and cut down like a sword, which is Shiho-nagi. That's an application. Now this can work from a single side opposite grab. If he grabs with both hands on the opposite side, I can come in here, and I can break behind the elbow, breaking his balance. That's this spear hand. I can come here, again, breaking the balance like so. Okay? Or this will work from a double grab. Doesn't matter. I can come in here, or I can come in here, break the balance. This time I'm doing it with the left hand, and again I'm going to pull him this way and shift behind him. Okay? So that's application of an elbow break and Shiho-nagi technique, turning to the outside from this motion here. Actually, I'm sorry. This motion, spear hand, I'm resetting, which is breaking his balance low, and then turning to the outside. Okay? Let me look here at my notes for a moment. We've got another interesting pressure point technique. It can be from a punch. If he goes to punch, I've got my block. Okay? I want to grab these wrist points, and I'm going to shoot my palm open so the key can go out the fingers. I'm going to shoot across this long point here. And then I'm going to come back with the elbow, which is showing the reset, and I'm going to come behind the arm, striking the triple warmer point. Okay? As I then drop my hand, let's turn around so I can show you what I'm doing. He goes to punch. I shoot across here to ignite either this lung or this large intestine. Meridian here. I'm going to come back and strike behind the elbow on the triple warmer meridian. This is going to set up the gallbladder. The gallbladder works here along the lower back, and you're to strike with an angle on the gallbladder. I'm going to follow up with an open-handed strike to the kidney. And that should affect a knockout. So you've got this motion here. Again, punch. Here, boom. Got a pressure point knockout. Again, we're using this technique here or we're looking at this series of movements from the collar. The augmented block followed by the spear hand to here. Now in Kibon O, we have a whole series of these pressing blocks and spear hands. And I've often shown if he goes to punch, I can take his balance. As he goes to pull back, I can step in and wrap him. I've got wrist pressure and press down like I'm pouring water out of the hand, and that'll take him down. That's called ude gaeshe. Okay? I want to show a variation of the ude gaeshe from this Pyan Dan Som form. Again, he's going to grab or he's going to punch. It doesn't matter. I'm going to get this technique. Instead of coming across or as he pulls back and wrapping, I'm going to cause him to go back by getting on this large intestine 12 right here. So what we have is he comes in, I get on the large intestine 12, and then I can drop him like so. So that's just a variation of Udaigai Eshe from this technique. A similar aspect of this, and I may be stretching it here, but I think it's a good technique. We have one of our knife set, he's going straight into the gut, okay? And what I'm doing is I'm stepping to the inside. I'm blocking with my typical knife block, which could be seen as this. Hands are together. This is guarding from him slipping up. So I've got the augmented block, okay? What I'm going to do is he goes to pull back. I'm going to get what's called kote mawashi pressure here, okay? And then I'm going to step through and take him to the ground, put pressure in the shoulder, and cause him to submit. So a little bit of a variation on that. He comes in straight, I block. As he goes to pull back, I rotate into this kote mawashi here. And I've got a similar movement as delineated in Kibon Som. Okay? One of the great Japanese swordsmen from the 1600s, Miyamoto Musashi, wrote a book called The Five Rings. Some very great martial principles are described therein that he took from sword fighting or sword technique. And I found something that he said in this book he wrote in 1643 very interesting. He said that we should know the rhythms of reversal. If you don't know and understand the rhythms of reversal, your martial arts will be incomplete or unsatisfactory. And I read that several years ago, and I began to think, how can I apply that to what we're doing here in this dojo? Because we don't use swords. I mean, I have more chance of winning the lottery nowadays than I do of being attacked by a sword, and I certainly wouldn't use a sword to attack someone else. However, a lot of the movements we use in unarmed combat come from sword fighting. And as in sword fighting, or Aido, the reversals, the rhythms of reversal were important, so is the case here. So I started thinking about our katas. And I started thinking about Bunkai in terms of reversal. And so one of the things we require our black belts to do when they get to the level of Shodan and above is to learn all of their Cheonjikido forms in reverse. And to discern or to come up with some Bunkai application from the rhythms of reversal. And so I've been thinking about this with regard to the Pyan Dan forms. We've been talking about this motion here. And then it follows into this. Let's look at that for a moment from reverse. Let's analyze the rhythms of reversal as Miyamoto Musashi, the great swordsman, exhorted us to do. We've got this reset, okay, that goes into the spear, back here. And so this is the movement in the kata. This is the rhythm of reversal. Okay? So we've got this augmented block, augmented block, followed by the spear, stepping back into this augmented block, the rhythm of reversal. There's a technique that I've been thinking of, an interesting Bunkai application with this rhythm of reversal. We've got the block followed by the strike, or the spear hand. Instead of the spear hand, reset into the block. This gets into what I call a block to a Timmy principle. We were talking earlier about how most students think of block followed by counterattack, 1-2, and how we need to learn to use them together. We used a block, a slipping strike technique earlier in one of the Bunkais from Pyan Dan. Here, I want to look at block to strike with the same arm. As he goes to punch, my block is followed or feeds into a strike. So the rhythm of reversal has this block feeding into the spear hand. So if he punches me with his left hand, I'm blocking. It's followed by a strike. Particularly, I'm focusing behind the ear on the triple warmer meridian. Now, Jason doesn't have much hair, but from here, I'm going to grab the head, or I can grab behind the ear, and I'm going to pull him back. And if I don't take him down, in the rhythm of reversal, I go back to this motion here. Okay, so I'm pulling the right side of my body back, rotating on the fulcrum of the item. He punches, I block, slip here, okay? I'm going to reach around to his chin for these purposes because he doesn't have any hair. I'm going to step back, and as I step back, what have I exposed? I've exposed that same side of the neck that I've just struck, and I can feed here as I pull him down. So in effect, I have a very dangerous knockout there. He comes in, slip, block. If he's got hair, I'm going to pull him back here, follow up to the stomach meridian below the jaw, and this should affect a takedown. Okay? So that's an application from the rhythms of reversal. I could go on and on about that from these Pyan Dan forms, but it would behoove any student of martial arts to heed Musashi's exhortation and to analyze any of their katas, even the most simple forms, in reverse. And there's some great value in that. I got two final movements I want to look at from Pyan Dan Som. We have analyzed this section from Pyan Dan I here. On the back side of the kata, we have the same thing. And you've got what looks like a half-moon open hand motion that sets into the rising block, and you do this set again. So instead of setting it up from this position as in the beginning of Pyan Dan I, it sets up with this half-moon reverse outside block. You see the same half-moon technique in Pyan Dan Som at the end. So we've gone through and we've gone from here. Then we got your kia, then you've got your knife hand blocks on the straight lines. From this point at the end of Pyan Dan Som, just like in Pyan Dan I, we use this half-moon motion followed by a reverse outside block, and then it feeds into the kicks. I want to look at this motion here, a motion of opposites. There's some interesting techniques that can be applied here. If he grabs this motion, I can wrap the arm and get the break. And then what do I have? I've got this. I've ignited or yoked him on that triple warmer meridian, and I can strike here to the triple warmer 17 or just under the jaw and take him down. So you have this half-moon wrapping motion. From a grab, I can wrap him here and go in like so. Or, let's say he's using a knife. Let's say he's going to swing it, just a wide. This can be a yokeman chop, or he can be using a bat. This motion here, if I can come in, kind of like a dead fish, like I'm throwing or slapping a dead fish down in the fish market. I'm going to come in and drain his energy on this large intestine meridian. Then I can come through and take him down on the opposite quadrant. Okay? I've drained his energy to the lower quadrant. I go to the opposite side, upper quadrant. I can choose any of those meridians there and effect disarmament very easily. So he comes in, and I've got this half-moon motion. That's going to loosen and weaken the wrist here, or the fist. I've got this motion. I step through here. Okay. The same thing would work even more effectively with the back that weighs more. As he comes in, boom, here, I just come right through here. So I've got this dead fish motion. There's no tension. I'm just flopping it. As he comes in, I'm just flopping it here. Okay? Are you feeling that, Jason? Are you giving that to me? You're not giving it to me. No. All right, I don't want to work this up too much, so I'm going to try to. We're not going to use this large intestine point much more. Very effective. Okay, so that dead fish technique is very good. We've got the wrapping technique, or let's say he's coming at me to grab or to push. I can kind of, let's use the left hand per se. I want to drain his energy here. I've just got this wrapping, draining energy. And what's he going to do? He's going to pull back. I'm just going to step in. Just like I would in the kata. And if I wanted to follow it up with a name gaeshi kick or a front snap kick to the spleen, I could. He goes to reach, I drain his energy, okay? I can come here and step through, okay? We actually see this in the Randori no kata from Tamiki Aikido. Number 3 in that set of 17, he's attacking like a dynamic attack I'm drawing him down. As he goes to pull up, I slip behind and I take him over my knee. And so you have this half moon motion. Okay? Again, one more time. I drain the energy and I come here. Okay? So that's just some application of this half moon technique. I do like this open hand here. One of the easiest ways to reverse a grab is to open hand and drop the key. That puts me here. If he goes to the opposite side, I can open the hand here. This half moon motion, drain his energy and go through with something else. There's an interesting set of self-defense technique from the Aikido tradition called Goshin Ho. Goshin Ho is a set of 42 techniques. Goshin Ho simply means self-defense. And it uses a lot of this open hand half moon motion. The very first technique is an opposite grab. I come to the front, I break his balance, and then I step through with Shomenate. The number 3, I step to the outside with this half moon motion, open hand, and as he goes to pull up, I come in. I can also do it this way. I can step through here and come through with this side here to take him down. Again, that's that half moon motion followed by the motion of the outside block on the opposite side of the body. Okay, I want to look at one more series of movements from Pyan Dan Som, and we're going to call it quits for the day. At the very end of the kata, I did say something earlier, I think that was incorrect, and I was confusing this with Pyan Dan I, so forgive me. But at the end of Pyan Dan Som, what we have is we have these 3/4 knife turns, and then we're quickly switching direction on the angle with the rising block, followed by a head-high punch. And it goes here, rising block followed by a head-high punch. This is very similar to the movement at the end of the traditional Shotokan form, Heian Nidan. So these Heian forms came from Itosu. They were obviously retained by Kenkin Toyama and taught in his dojo in Japan. So Inyan Byun would have learned these Heian forms, and they're very similar to the Pyan Dan forms, so you can tell the commonality of heritage very easily. But I want to look at this switching of direction. So we've got motion here, followed by motion in the opposite direction. We're turning one way, then we quickly switch and go here. So you've got motion in one direction, and it has to quickly be redirected. And this is because the uke changes his motion. And so, in terms of the principle of blending or redirection of force, we go and change our direction to match what the uke or the attacker is doing. And this gives us an advantage. And so I'm thinking of some pretty easy applications of this motion. I've got this motion here, and then I quickly step through on this angle. Or I've got this spinning motion here, I step through on this angle. This is the principle of irimenage. We see this in Aikido. We've got some similar motions in one of our Cheonjikido forms. This would be the Chilgib form. The irimenage is couched in here. If he goes to punch, or maybe it's, let's actually use a knife here. Let me grab a knife. Let's say he's going to come down with an upward strike with the knife, or let's say he's coming, just kind of maybe at an angle to the temple, or he's coming straight down. I'm going to use this principle of irimenage. I'm going to come in and I'm going to take his motion this way. Let's turn around here for the camera. So I've got him this direction. As he begins to pull up, I'm going to cover and step through here. And I've got the knife or the wrist manipulated here. So you've got a sudden change of direction, just like in the Pyan Dan Som form. Again, I come here, I can switch directions here, and I've got the knife. Okay, the cover is necessary when he's using the knife to keep it from coming up to attack. As he comes down, I come here, and then I'm covering. This is the rising block motion. As he comes up, I step through, and I'll have him in this Kote Gaesh joint manipulation here. If I want to, I can spin him over and take the knife. But it's this principle of Arimanagi. I don't really need that if he doesn't have the knife. I don't have to cover because I don't have a blade. If he comes toward me like with a push or a punch, I can come here this way where I don't have to reverse the motion, or I can go to the outside here and then I can reverse the motion here as he pulls up. As he stumbles, he's naturally going to pull up and switch his direction or his motion. I'm going to do the same thing. This can happen one of two fashions. You've seen that form of it. I can come here as he goes up. I don't have to step through. I can just step back, hooking under the chin and reversing the motion that way. That actually comes from some of our Ippon Kumite. We call those the 11 dynamic throws. And then that knife Arimanage comes right out of the Koryu Dai Roku kata from Aikido, old style 6. And so I think the Arimanagi principle is the sudden reversal of motion to blend with the attacker's decision to change the motion. So we adapt. We have to adapt quickly. And I think that's what this is showing. A very quick application. I'm not able to finish in this direction, so I have to change and finish it at the opposite angle. And an application of that would be Arimanage. So that'll conclude our Bunkai teaching today from Pyan Dan Il, Pyan Dan I, Pyan Dan Som. Thank you.